of support from the agency administrators to build that piece out. We got lucky that we were able to get an aviation asset that we didn't actually use in this instance, but for the short haul piece, but they did have ALS capacity.
And luckily, most of us were pretty, we were pretty familiar with our emergency action plan checklist, and that was brought out during the incident, and we were able, at least in camp perspective, follow that and kind of keep people on task, and I think that really helped us a lot too. I'm sure there's, we fought over ways to improve or not improve on this, but I think it got us at least on task, and we hit the highlights of what we needed to accomplish from each, of the command and general staff positions and, medical, and so I think that helped.
Then I started going into the IAP and looking at, where was Flight for Life coming out of, trying to find ways of when was going to be the quickest of pulling them up, on getting communication with them here at the base. So that is what kind of took us a while.
Since Claudia hasn't been with the team, one of the things we wanted to do was get medical and communications together. And one day or 2 days prior to our incident happening on the hill, we sat down and we went through 2 different scenarios. And it's hard to do with everything else you've got on your plate as command and general staff. But the interesting thing about it is when I came into the room and got the notification that we had the incident, I walked in there, and these guys were in the same exact places as we had practiced. We had our 2 radio operators, one was sitting, one was standing by the radio and the phone. Claudia was sitting next to him. The comm unit leader was just over at the other table. I came in and stood for some strange reason right in the same spot. And these guys followed that protocol. I mean, this was out, and they were following that. And, it's not always easy to get those type of practice in and have something happen that close, but it was kind of amazing that they did exactly what they practiced.
On the 14th, on that afternoon, we swapped an A-Star, I believe, for the Grand Canyon ship with short haul capability.
Got a bonus with that ship too, because they have a paramedic on board, and when the canyon ships are situated on a national park, through the medical protocols, they work through the director for the Park Service, or physician, and so then this individual was also able to get outfitted with full ALS and pain medication, so that's kind of a bonus of having that on a national park system lands. But it was just kind of a bonus, and we were fortunate to have an emergency service director for all ALS here in the park with us most of the time to clarify this.
One thing I think we really rely heavily upon in the fire side is evacuation by air. And especially in the Rockies, in a lot of areas, at night, weather conditions don't allow for an evacuation by air. And so that was one component that I really had to work with the safety team here to develop a ground evacuation plan. Is, in SAR, we kind of rely on ground first. Ground is our primary method, and we hope for air support. And so our whole evacuation plan is around a ground evacuation. If we can fly them out, that's great. But I think that the fire line should actually have their plan A as a ground evacuation, and then plan B is their air support.
It's a great model that came up before as well. People forget that. For your ground evacuation, it's plan A. What resources do you bring in for that? Has anyone seen that plan yet? The ground evacuation plan?
And so it's pretty simple. It's really just training the crews up there to start a litter evacuation from the field, because if they can get that litter evacuation moving forward and moving towards our evacuation point, it'll speed things up dramatically, especially with large crews on the field. When you have 40 to 100 guys out there, they can move a litter pretty quickly and just take turns in rotating it. So I think integrating that training into fire crew training, just doing basic ground evacuation, packaging somebody in a litter wheel and moving them to a trailhead is key. We'll start sending in staff from the opposite end to assist with the evacuation. And that line paramedic can provide advanced life support on the way out. And so, you know, the evacuation will get accomplished, maybe not as quick as air, but we just don't want crews sitting there waiting if all of a sudden we can't fly for whatever reason.
But Tony and I had some conversations, and I had sent her from the lessons learned site the link to those little pink stickers that's supposed to be in the IRPGs, and we had some discussions about that and what the team, how the team operated, and whether or not we were going to use those. And is what I see from the Dutch Creek protocols, it establishes the command in the leadership and the process, so you know who's in control out there. So a lot of times, if you don't have those duties clearly defined, bad things can happen to people. So it was a relief once we got here, and in the delegation, we said we're going to follow the protocols in terms of the leadership and the roles and responsibility for communicating that information and who's doing what.